Typhon. Typhon was the Witch of Pride. Mentioned throughout the series, she formally debuted in Arc 4 as a supporting character. Following her death 400 years ago, Echidna collected her soul and brought it to the sanctuary along with the other witches. Throughout Arc 4, she and the other witches helped Subaru accept himself and change his views on return by death. After the arc, her soul was transferred into a crystal and she is currently traveling with Omega. When Typhon was a young girl, she was troubled with the concept of good and evil, and tended to watch her father execute people as a part of his job to find an answer. One day, she broke his wine cup, prompting her to confess her deed to him while fearing execution, though fortunately he accepted her apology, leading her to believe that the scale that measured a person's sin was inside of their own heart. Ever since then, Typhon began asking people if they were sinners, and brought down punishment to those that were guilty. At some point in her childhood, Typhon absorbed the witch factor of pride, giving her access to an authority of pride. Known as the Witch of Pride, Typhon mercilessly judged and executed people all across the world due to her youthful naivety, even going as far as killing her father, of course, without any ill will. She was a member of the Witches of Sin, a small group of other witch factor bearers who were reviled by the people of the world. Over 400 years ago, Typhon went to Priestella where she drowned in the city's trap. Echidna later proceeded to collect and preserve her soul in her tomb in the sanctuary, alongside other witches of sin. Appearance. Typhon was a young girl who looked as though she was around 10 years of age. She had large round red eyes that brimmed with curiosity and short messy deep green hair that fell down to her chin level and was stylized into a bob cut of sorts. Her skin was dark and her face possessed an adorability expected in a girl of her age. The little girl gives off an aura of a lovely young girl. Contrary to her true nature as the Witch of Pride, evoked images of youth, innocence, and purity to those that met her. She does not give off the impression of being a witch. Typhon's lovely clothing helped complement her youthful disposition. Her ensemble included a wreath of blue flowers of different shades decorating the top of her head, a blue armband on each arm, matching light blue scrunchies worn on both of her wrists, a pair of pieces of white material that covered her ankles and had a matching pair of blue flowers attached to them, and a white sundress with light blue lining and a row of blue flowers as its bottom hem. The dress was translucent below its hemline, as Typhon's bare legs could partially be seen under the fabric. The Witch of Pride was never seen wearing anything on her feet. Personality. Typhon acted very childlike, which reflected on her actual age, often doing things on impulse, not reading the mood properly and rarely listening to other people. She had trouble understanding heavier, philosophical topics, as seen when she didn't understand Subaru's view on good and bad people, though her replies sometimes tended to be different from what one would expect from a 10-year-old child. She showed heavy interest in people's sins, more often than not disregarding topics and entire conversations, often important, just so she could figure out if a person is an evildoer or not. Despite her young age, Typhon had a strong sense of justice and showed no remorse to those she considered guilty. Instead of judging people off of their actions, Typhon condemned those she came across over their feelings of guilt. She showed the capacity for manipulation, as she used her adorable charm to her advantage when getting Subaru to hold her hand so she could test his guilt. She showed little to no compassion for people who she regards as evildoers. However, she felt solicitude towards people who weren't evildoers but to those who have a guilty conscience, even though she was perfectly capable of killing them. She was said to have judged criminals with the innocence and ruthlessness of a child, which stemmed from her past of watching her father execute people, in order to find an answer about the concept of good and evil. This later resulted in her killing her own father, alongside other members of her village. Her view on the world was described as easygoing and bizarre, completely different from what one would expect from a 10-year-old girl. Abilities. Authority of Pride. Guman no Ken no Typhon is able to use the authority of pride. After obtaining the authority, Typhon was able to sense whether an individual was good or bad merely by touching them. Furthermore, she could also tell whether the person in question felt any guilt for any past actions. If a person felt guilt, regardless of the size and context of the guilt or whether or not they were a good or a bad person, Typhon's authority would have an effect on them. The power of the authority allowed Typhon to telekinetically shatter the bodies of perceived sinners. Under Typhon's gaze, the target would simply collapse into a collection of shards of themselves. If a guilty person had a good heart, they would feel no pain when Typhon obliterated them. The first time Typhon was seen using the power was on Natsuki Subaru in Echidna's Castle of Dreams, who failed to feel pain from the authority thanks to his good heart. However, as they were only in a dreamscape, Subaru didn't die when the Witch of Pride shattered his body, though if Wrath wouldn't have healed him, his fate would have been sealed then and there. If an opponent hit her, Typhon could activate her authority and destroy the attacker as long as all the conditions were met. The authority worked instantly, but it did not nullify the actual damage, as seen when Minerva hit Typhon, and instantly, her hands crumbled to dust while Typhon was blown back by the sheer force of the attack. It is implied that Typhon takes the sinner's body parts as compensation for their sins. It also has no effect on living things that possess limited or no capacity to think, like Daphne's centipede coffin.
If you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you later, bye bye.